It's going clack. Alrighty, hey everybody, welcome to Houston with a Problem. We're at 105. Holy smokes! Today was kind of meh. I mean, Dow finished flat, GameStop finished flat. I don't think much has really gone on after hours here. No, everything's just. Crypto's getting pumped again. DWAC got dropped. They had a big drop. Bene, another SPAC. Bene had a big drop afterwards, and everything else looks pretty darn flat. So, other than crypto having a big zoom today, they're all buying back in. It's up, was up almost 4% at one point. But such is life. Not much to go on, and I can tell there's not much to go on because all the first chats in here are all about like geology and geography. So, there we are. I do think that there is a whole bunch in the war chest of the hedge funds. Them dumping and then pumping the tech stocks on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday last week. I think generated probably $1 billion. That might net them another $30 billion in margin they can use to hammer us. They just didn't choose to do it today because the market was so meh. If the Dow starts to drop, expect to see them really hammer the tech stocks. That's my prediction on that. Thudger Teachoff. Houston, happy birthday. How come the Gulf and East Coast seem to get hammered by hurricanes and storms, but the West Coast gets earthquakes? What's the difference between the two sides? It's all about that spreading ridge, baby, and ocean currents. So, boom, go to Google Earth. There we go. All right. So, pretty simple. Get out from big old crater there. Okay, so we have along the equator lots of warm air that rises, right? So all across the equator, all across the Earth, everywhere, get lots of hot air that rises. The air goes up and then spreads out in the upper atmosphere, then falls back down to 30-degree latitudes. And those 30-degree latitudes get a high pressure and they blow all the wind back to the equator. So a place like Hawaii gets a whole bunch of winds that come from this high pressure area in the 30-degree latitudes, like where these big deserts are, and it blows all the wind over Hawaii on its way back to the equator, will rise back up and then fall back on those high zones. The same thing happens in the Atlantic. You got the 30-degree latitudes, like where the Sahara Desert is, and 30 degrees south where the Kalahari and Namib deserts are. And the hot air from the equator falls on these two zones and then blows back via the trade winds back towards the equator. Now, this causes trade winds to blow sort of across the Atlantic Ocean towards the Caribbean. And where the equator is, you don't get much storm formation. The air just kind of rises, rains, and then it dissipates again. But in the tropics, in the 20-degree latitudes, you get a whole bunch of storm formation that blows along with those trade winds. And so they'll blow across the hot water, and as long as the water is really warm, 28 degrees Celsius or higher, you can generate really powerful storms. So in the summertime, all the water throughout here is really warm, especially in the Caribbean, especially in the Gulf. And so when storm systems form, they can have a lot of energy. So that's why you get tons of hurricanes that come up the East Coast, that hit the Gulf states, because this water is stagnant, it's calm, it's really warm, and it just causes lots of energy uplifting. And so you get a whole bunch of storms there, and that's why hurricanes in this region. Now, hurricanes do hit Mexico a lot. They'll form here in the Eastern Pacific where it's really hot, and sometimes they'll bend and blow back into Mexico. Other times they get sent along with the trade winds across the Pacific, and they'll hit the Hawaiian Islands. The last big one, it's like massive one to hit Hawaii, was the Niki in 92, hit Kauai. And then, what was the one in 2014? I can't remember the name of the one in 2014. There was one that hit the Big Island in 2014, and its name is totally escaping me. And then in the Western Pacific, in the Far East, you'll get tons of storms at the Philippines, Japan, Okinawa, Taiwan, China. Get these cyclones and blow through here, and then a bunch of cyclones that will hit Western Australia, blow into India, and do things like that. Now, on the west coast here, there's something called the Humboldt Current, which is cold air from Alaska dipping down and sinking towards the equator and warming up. So it's really hard for storm systems to make their way and blow up the waterways here and maintain their energy. Every once in a while in the winter, you'll have a big hurricane that'll blow across the Pacific, hit Hawaii, and then come up and become a post-tropical cyclone, and then bend back with the trade winds that come from the east, along with the cold waters, and then we'll hit Alaska, Canada, Washington, Oregon. We get hit with those a couple times a winter, usually like November, December, in that realm. One of the ones that hit Hawaii, like 3 weeks later, bent around, came back, and slammed into Seattle and did a lot of damage. Now, earthquakes are all about how herky-jerky the movements are of the Earth. So on the East Coast, technically the East Coast of the United States is moving like 3 inches west every single year. And that's because of the spreading ridge here in the Atlantic. And the spreading ridge works like a conveyor belt. New lava comes out and pushes the old lava out of the way, and it just keeps moving. And so U.S., Africa, U.S., Europe, we're all spreading apart from each other over time as a result of this spreading ridge pushing all this stuff out. But what happens is it pushes everything across the United States, and then the United States and North America hits the Pacific plate. The Pacific plate is denser, so it goes underneath, and the North American plate floats on top. And as that thing dives underneath, magma can melt. You can get volcanoes. You can get really crazy subduction zone earthquakes. And so that's why the West Coast is much more prone to earthquakes than the East Coast, because wherever you see mountains, you know that mountain building is happening. If mountain building is happening, that means earthquakes are happening. So a lot more earthquakes prone on the West Coast of the United States as a result. So that's the short of it, and hope that helped there, Fudger. Teats Hoff. Okay, couple super chats. Karen Mirza, Sears was up, and can you please mention for people to help or look at animal shelters? Helping animal shelters. Thanks. Yes, Karen Mirza. Sears is bouncing around still, being weird, and I already need water. I don't know what's going on in the expert market. Maybe it's just Canadians buying in that's causing the price to jump. I have no idea. And yeah, help out. Oh, god damn it. Son of a bitch. Click off. I'm staring at the turn off the intro thing. Son of a... Yes, help out your animal shelters if you can. The animal shelter I've got monkey butt from is a ways away from me. It's like an hour and a half away, so I don't really get a chance to go help out there. But if you do live close to the animal shelter, go walk dogs. Go take care of cats, foster them, hang out. Why not? I like that's a good idea. Travis White 13. Can you explain what these Freedom Convoy idiots are throwing their hissy fit about up here in Canada? I looked, but it just didn't make any sense. Well, they don't want to get vaccinated, and they're having a hissy fit because they don't want to help everyone else. And they think it's under the guise of freedom or something. But to me, freedom is being able to survive a global pandemic. That to me is like freedom. Not having to die from preventable disease is freedom. Protecting others and letting them live rich, free lives is freedom. But blocking off the entire country because you don't want to do your part and get a needle in your arm, I don't think that's really freedom. I think that's just being a dick. And so, yeah, there you go, Travis, right? That's my little explanation. Dilla Joints, thanks for the rant. It fed my soul. Hope the hip gets fixed soon. Oh, thank you. Yes. Right now we're scheduled for April for her new hip. So hopefully we won't have any new variants come along and no new waves, and she can finally get her new hip in her. That'd be fantastic. Yeah. Okay. All right. And Space Monkey asks, when do we get my sticker? Well, I sent a bunch out last week. Hopefully they're getting to everybody. Julianne said she got her sticker. We'll check the P.O. box again tomorrow and see if there's other letters in there. Remember, you send me a self-addressed stamped envelope, I will send you a sticker. So, Houston, we have a problem sticker. You can stick it on anything you want. So, there's that. Yeah. So, hopefully soon, you and your wife should get them. If you send me envelopes, you're getting them. Okay, and Julianne wants to know what's going on in the Three Sisters volcano in Oregon. magma surge. It's been surging for a while. It had surged like 10 or 12 feet in the last decade, I thought. We go back to Oregon. So you can see here, like from Canada down through Oregon to Northern California, well, these little white bumps you can see. These are stratovolcanoes. And so there's a really cool spot out here near Bend where you can pull the side of Highway 97. You can see like 7 or 8 stratovolcanoes all in one view. It's pretty awesome. The Three Sisters are right here by Bend, Oregon. So there's Bend, and here's the Three Sisters. Now, Three Sisters, they're 3 volcanoes that are fed by one magma chamber. And so when they know it's inflating, they put little GPS beacons at the top of each of these. And when the magma chamber inflates, the 3 volcanoes all kind of start to point away from each other ever so slightly. And so it's inflated by several feet, like pushed the mountains up higher by several feet over the last 10 or 15 years. And it's, you know, these are very likely to have a volcanic eruption in our lifetime. My prevailing theory is that the volcanoes of the Cascades probably won't have too many eruptions until the subduction zone earthquake happens. Now, in the previous little thing, I've talked about subductions and earthquakes, and that's when the Earth, the Pacific plate, or in this case, the Juan de Fuca plate, this tiny little ocean plate right here, dives under North America, and then it brings all this new material down towards the mantle where it melts and bubbles up and becomes the volcanoes. Every single solitary subduction zone, Alaska, Kamchatka, Japan, Philippines, Papua New Guinea, New Zealand area, all the way down in the South America, every single solitary subduction zone has had a major earthquake in the last 15, 20 years, except for the Juan de Fuca plate. And we are normally about a 300-year time scale. And the last time we had an earthquake here was January 28th of the year 1700. And so when we get that big earthquake and a whole bunch of new material dives down and can be melted and turned into those volcanoes, I think that's when we're going to have this volcanic range start popping off again. Until then, we're just kind of sitting and waiting. The only active volcano in the last, 100 years has been Mount St. Helens. And Mount St. Helens here. And the other one, I think Mount Lassen erupted in 1909, I believe. So there's Shasta. Lassen is over here? So it's been a while. It's been a while since there's been any real activity. In the 70s, they thought Mount Baker was going to go. It started steaming a whole bunch and then just kind of calmed down. But we got time. These volcanoes will let us know when they're going to start rumbling. You'll have weeks or months notice of weird earthquakes, and you get these bell ringing type seismographs where it's like bong in the readings that they get, and that's because rock is cracking and magma is moving. So every time the rock cracks and magma moves, it makes this kind of bell ringing look in the seismographs. And it wasn't realized until the late 80s, early 90s that that's what folks were looking at in seismographs was magma moving, and that the potential for an eruption was imminent. Until there was a conference in the 1990s in Ecuador, I believe, of volcanologists. And these volcanologists were like, we're going to go up to this volcano while we're here. We're going to check it out. And one of the volcanologists had just done a talk that said this volcano was going to erupt because he was seeing the bell ringing. And the other one's like, nah, you're full of shit. And they went up there and the mountain erupted and killed all of them while they're up there. So, some people have to learn their science the hard way. But yeah, so there's your volcano lesson. Back to me and no intro. All right. Okay. Paraturn. I got absolutely pumped by Astra today. Multiple scrub launches. I just need one good one. Think of me as I go down in flames. Also, if you could do what, if not where, do as shall can. Yes. Wise words. Keith Griffith. Hey, Houston. So what happens now to Loopring now since GameStop announced a partnership with Immutable X? Does this mean all three are working together? I believe so. I think it's the Loopring platform, the Layer 2 platform, GameStop's marketplace, and Immutable X's technology, I believe, for creating NFTs. And then Microsoft announced that all of their games are going to be moving to this platform as well. And they just acquired Activision, one of the biggest gaming companies in the world. So I saw some tweets from the head of blockchain at Microsoft, who's like, "Yep, we're moving everything to the GameStop platform," and the stock price didn't move at all. So I think it's going to be bigger and bigger news. It's going to mean more and more inflow of cash for GameStop in the end. That seems like a big deal, and why no one is talking about it, I don't know. Javier, Houston, I'm currently teaching Northwest Europe geography for high schoolers. What would be some of the most kept secrets people should know of the region? Man, you guys want me going all over the world today, don't you? Okay. I'm not super hip on Northwestern Europe geography, but I know a few tricks. One, during previous ice ages, the entire English Channel was dry. So there was a land bridge between everything, because the English Channel is only like 35 feet deep. It's not very deep at all. They have to actually dig channels sometimes to get ships through. The White Cliffs of Dover, if you heard of those, probably seen them in movies and TV shows and stuff, the big giant white cliffs. Those are all dead sea creatures. That's diatomaceous earth, chalk. And those are the skeletons of tiny little pieces of plankton that have been stacked up over millions and billions of years. So you can take a scoop of that stuff and look at it under a microscope, and you'll see all sorts of just beautiful diatoms. What was the German guy? Oh, crap. Un momento. I gotta grab a book. Ugh. Okay, here we go. This is a pretty decent biography on Alexander von Humboldt. That I read a couple months ago. So Alexander van Humboldt has more places named after him on planet Earth than any human being alive. Outside of Germany and South America, not too many people are aware of that anymore. He was like the biggest scientist in the entire world for 150 years. He influenced Darwin. He influenced lots of the transcendentalists, Waldo Emerson. He was friends with Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, Simon Bolivar, who fought the Spanish off to take over South America, was like his best buddy. And he inspired all sorts of crazy scientists, and one of them was a German, if I remember his name. This is a section here. Gosh dang it, I wish I remember names. Haeckel. So Haeckel, he made his name by discovering these tiny little diatoms, and they make some really cool stuff. I don't know if you can see on these here, but the structures of the diatoms are, where's my camera? There's my camera. Are like crazy little snowflakey space age things. It inspired the, what do they call it? Art Nouveau movement of the early 20th century, where they built all sorts of crazy like pergolas and stuff out of the designs of these natural little sea creatures. And those are make up the chalk in Dover. It's a good book, by the way, if you want to learn a lot about biology and early naturalism. Don't you dare fall. Andrea Wolff is the author. The Invention of Nature, Alexander von Humboldt and the New World. Pretty good book. But so all through here was ancient seafloor. They got just billions of years of these creatures landing on top of each other, dying and sinking down to the bottom. And so all the chalk pretty much on Earth comes from that. And the diatomaceous earth that's found in kitty litter, animal feed. It's really absorbent because all these like little pores in it. And they what's the other thing it goes into? Like fertilizers for plants because it holds water a lot. That's all from these dead sea creatures, and you find tons of them in this region along the cliffs of Dover and Normandy. I'm not even showing the map anymore. Like cliffs of Dover, Normandy area. What else in the Northwest? In like where Loch Ness is. So this region up here. You get the series of lochs that go across Scotland. This is a transverse fault. Scotland's trying to escape, and it's actually moving sideways against the bulk of Isle of Britain. And so this is actually a big giant fault, kind of like San Andreas Fault that goes across here. That's another cool thing you can teach them. What else? What else interesting they can throw at you to teach your students? Well, I went to the Paris catacombs while I was in Paris. So this whole area is all limestone because it used to be seafloor as well. So a bunch of old corals and seashells and stuff died and got smashed to bits and turned into rock. And in Paris, they did underground quarries throughout the city to carve out the blocks of rock they used to make all the buildings. And all the buildings are made of limestone. And when the city got bigger and bigger and bigger, because old Paris was, say, here, right? When the city just got bigger and bigger and started to expand outwards, they discovered that there was too many graveyards, and they had to take all these paupers' graves, like 6 to 8 million people, and they just stacked all their bones in the old underground quarries that go throughout the entire city, starting in the 1700s. And they did this through like 1896. And they just dig up the graves, take all the bones, and then they'd stack them in really cool piles and stack their skulls and designs and things like that. Pretty morbid, macabre, and it's I definitely recommend taking. It's pretty heavy metal, man. Go take a tour of the Bastille. So the geology and geography of Paris resulted in using these building stones, and then the Paris got too big, and they had to dig up all the graves. And tons of people that died in plagues, children orphanages, you name it. There's just bones everywhere. Millions. And like you go in, your brain can't even comprehend. Just, you're looking at from floor to about a 5-foot level for thousands of feet of tunnels. 20, 30 feet deep. Just bones. Bones, bones, bones everywhere. It is wild. Throughout the entire city. You can only walk maybe, 500 meters of it. It's not 1,000 meters of it, maybe. The rest of it is all off limits, but it's throughout the entire city for a giant region is just bones of millions and millions and millions of dead people. It's crazy. It's really crazy. Okay. Man, you guys are all about geology today. Ricardo Pestic, Houston. I was reading about the series of intraplate earthquakes in 1811 in the Mississippi Valley. The author of the piece said that this kind of earthquake is stronger than those on the West Coast. The Madrid earthquake is the giant one that hit in the early 1800s, 1811, 1812, and was estimated in the 9.0 region, maybe bigger. Some say as big as 10. I'm not quite sure because we didn't have any system of measuring the size of earthquakes then. We can just guess. So the New Madrid fault is here near St. Louis. In this area, I believe. Let's see if we can type in New Madrid fault. New Madrid fault line. Yeah, down here. Okay, southern Missouri. So there's a very weird fault that runs through this farmland region here. And it gave an earthquake in, I think it was like January 1812, somewhere in there, that was so powerful that out here in Boston, 1,000 miles away, 100 miles away? Let's see here. Let's put that in miles. And we're going to go U to Boston. Yeah, over 1,000, almost 1,100 miles away. Rang the church bells in Boston. Absolutely just bong, bong, everything was shaking. The earthquake was huge. It caused the Mississippi River to run backwards. So it rippled everything and forced the Mississippi to run backwards, which flooded tons of this new frontier. So there was lots of settlers out here, and we don't know how many because it really wasn't much bureaucrats from the U.S. settled in this area, and just thousands of them died from the Mississippi River flooding backwards and swamping their farms. And so when the next wave of settlement came out a few years later, they found a whole bunch of like abandoned farmhouses and shacks where people had been 10, 20 years earlier, but they died in the New Madrid quake. We have no idea how many died out here. Now, the mechanics behind this quake, I'm not quite certain of the New Madrid fault. I don't quite know exactly what makes it. I think it might be a compression region between this whole plate moving and this one not wanting to move as much because the Pacific plate's in the way. And so there might be wrinkles forming here, or it might be a, let me look this up. Because I don't want to say something that I'm totally wrong about. New Madrid fault. Where is... There we go. All right. Go to Wikipedia because Wikipedia told me. And turn off the Google Earth. Bam. Whoops, that's calculator. That's what we want. Okay. So here guys, New Madrid fault. This region here. New Madrid fault zone. So St. Louis is up there. Memphis down here. Yeah, there's an uplift zone there. Okay, so it's part of what probably made the Ozark region. So there's uplift there, and it's my guess is compression along the continent. So my hunch there was pretty correct. Okay. Okay. Yeah, and then there's an ancient rift. So this stuff wanted to go creaky crack and split and made a rift there. There was a big rift up in ancient Minnesota up here. There's a big rift, I don't know, 100 million years ago that split open here, and the entire continent was trying to tear itself apart then. This is before India slammed into Asia, which caused all sorts of things to bend around. But North America was trying to split itself in half up here in Minnesota, and it ripped open and flood basalt spilled out for millions of years as North America was trying to tear itself apart. And then India slammed into Asia, which caused the entire Pacific plate to twist, which just sealed that thing shut, so North America got stuck together again. But pretty crazy geology in this whole area. Okay. All right. AMC Bull says Lake Ozark's the place to be if New Madrid occurs. Get some bitchin' waves in there for sure. Okay. I'm only, how far behind? I'm only a half an hour behind, 40 minutes behind in the chat. Cool. Cool. You guys are asking lots of geology questions today. Paratarian wants to know my zombie apocalypse survival plan. Well, I live on an island, so that helps. If the war rig engine ever works, that's part of my plan, but I gotta put a new engine in there, and that's just... Want to get cash, I buy shares of stock instead of fixing my engine. So if I sold my stock, I could fix my engine, but then I wouldn't have the potential of the MOAS. But my truck's got a kitchen, it's got a fridge, it's got a sink, it's got water filtration, it's got power sources. Normally, when it drives, it's pretty badass. And that is the basis of my entire zombie apocalypse survival plan, is that I can go anywhere and do anything. Provided the engine works. So there you go. I don't know. Shovels to the head. That should work. Okay. And then D's nuts. D's nuts. Got coordinates for us. So we might as well get the coordinates out of the way since we're doing so much geology today. Where are we going, D's nuts? Going across the world. We're going to Ireland, the land of Ire. We're going to a lake. We're going to an island on a lake. We're going to this island on a lake, which, Cock Island. These nuts took us to Cock Island. There you go. Cock Island. You too could row a boat to Cock Island. Thank you, these nuts. That's beautiful. That's a beautiful place took us on the earth. Winter Sama, Houston, hope all's well. Wondering if you heard about J. Powell trading during the restricted FOMC blackout period and lying about bonds and not disclosing trade dates. I did not hear about that. I'm sure if you guys will send me some articles. I did not hear about that, and that sounds like a very bad thing. Bankers who work at Federal Reserve, they shouldn't trade stocks. They should set up some sort of blind trust or put them into some sort of annuities account or something, and just let it go from there. And they have no active trading until they retire. They can't trade stocks. Same thing with elected politicians and just federal financial employees and stuff. They shouldn't be able to trade stocks at all. Just you can put it into some sort of index and then set it and forget it, or blind trust or something. Pension fund, I don't know. But no, that sounds bad. That sounds bad on Jay Powell's part, because if they're doing monetary policy specifically to enrich themselves via insider trades, that is bad news for everybody. It's good for them, bad for us. So there you go. And then Nevitz0974, greetings Houston, turn off the intro. A little too late for that. Nevitz did not get there in time. And then Aaron says, please forget to turn off your intro. You're welcome, Aaron, I did. Jason Blackwell, what's the chance that Oilco doesn't sell land and just pumps oil themselves? Or selling seem almost certain? I don't think they want to run an oil company. That's why I think they're going to sell. And oil closing in $100 a barrel can generate a boatload of cash for everybody involved. Immediately without the headache, having to drill wells, follow environmental rules, scout for things, transport, refine. That's just a big pain in the butt. Metamaterials wants to be a material sciences company. They don't want to be in the oil business, which is why the whole plan was to sell off the land. The only reason Oilco is forming is because the law required them to turn the preferred shares into shares of stock if the preferred shares didn't become cash by January 31st. So that's why it's turning into Oilco stock. But I think somebody's going to buy it. They got to. You got 4 billion barrels of oil worth $400 billion in today's market. Someone's going to want that oil. So why wouldn't they sell it? Okay. Laser Haas, are you going to do a show? Oh, hey, Laser. Are you going to do a show on J. Clayton conflicts? I'll have to read up more on those conflicts, Bill, do a show on that, but why not? Your thing, Laser. Yeah, we can do that. Houston, what's your opinion on the warehouse fire on Bartlett? Should apes be concerned? How would you think of best protecting our info? I would be curious to find out what kind of papers were stored in that storage facility. The fire seems sketchy. The fact that the suppression system didn't work seems sketchy. Apparently one shelf falling over can hit a sprinkler head and then cause none of the other sprinkler heads to work. That doesn't seem like physics. I'm curious to see exactly what post-mortem comes out of that. Cameron Mirza, this fire in Illinois, Bartlett Warehouse, how is this still burning? Was accelerant used? Well, if accelerant was used, it'd be finished burning. It would have accelerated. I think there's just a lot of paper. It's a paper storage house, so it's got just boatloads of fuel. That stuff will burn and burn and burn and burn. And if they can't get in there, warehouse fires are really gnarly. There was a big one in Seattle in the 90s, the Ping warehouse fire, that killed a whole bunch of firefighters. Because the warehouse is structurally sound, but not very load-bearing. So if one of the octagonal trusses holding up a roof gives way, that whole thing comes crashing down, and it's very dangerous. And there's lots of fuels in warehouses. And so generally when warehouse fires get big, the firemen have learned to just stand back and just drop water on it and hope for the best, because they can't send anybody in there to fight it because it's too structurally unsafe. Read about the Ping warehouse fire. It was really bad. I want to say 4 or 5. Warehouse fire. Oops, wrong one. Yeah, 4 firefighters. It was an arson that caused it. So 1992, 95. So 4 firefighters died. It was an arson caused by the son of the lady who owned the place, trying for insurance money, and then he like fled to Brazil or something. Oops, I forgot to get Google Earth out of the way. Yeah. So it was the International District, Seattle's Chinatown, and it wasn't even as big a warehouse as probably what's burning in Illinois. Looking at maybe 10,000 square feet, and just once those trusses, the octagonal trusses that hold up roofs give way, then they start just falling on people and killing them. So it's really gnarly. There's a big monument in Occidental Park in Seattle for the firefighters who died. But after that warehouse fire, the way warehouse fires were fought in the country changed after that because of everything. So my guess is that seriously they're just sitting back and just dropping water on it because they can't send anybody in there and do anything else. It's just gonna go and go and go until it's finally out of fuel, I guess. And that's the best we can hope for. Whoever set that fire, if it was set on purpose, they did a good job. And what would be best to protect our info? Well, I mean, I don't know how anybody's going to hack our info via a warehouse fire. And I don't know what files were kept there. Who knows what type of offsite storage. I think there's offsite storage for a whole bunch of different companies in that facility because that's what offsite storage facilities are for. So I'd be curious to see exactly what portions of Schwab and TD trade data is in there. Or was in there, I guess, just to say. Brandon T. Houston, honestly, how long can the hedgies keep going? Years? I think they can keep going as long as there's a market crash. When there's a market crash, that's going to trigger a whole bunch of different outcomes. But as long as the market keeps somehow staying afloat, they'll stay afloat. But once that market takes a big old crash, it's going to eat up a bunch of hedge funds and a bunch of family funds along the way. I don't care how hedged you are. If all your assets under management evaporate, then that's it. AMC Bull, hey, why are you so sure the Hedges FUD's war chest hasn't been casted to hell? I'm not sure I know what you're asking. It's cheaper to spread FUD than it is to actually close your bets. So, yeah, chunks. Yeah. I mean, if you got to spend $100 billion closing your position, or you can spend a few $1,000,000 here and there, buying articles at Motley Fool or Alpha, whatever, it's much cheaper than having to close your bets. You can always send some people into Reddit to go yik yak and argue with folks and have them come on to streams and call me names or whatever. It's pretty easy for them to do. It happens more on the bigger streams, I think, than my little stream where I get a few hundred of you at a time. The bigger ones that, like Matt and Uncle Bruce and guys that can get thousands and thousands of viewers, I think they have more of a problem with that than I do. But and Greg L also asked, how long do you think they can do it? Keep doing this? I think they can keep doing it for months or years, as long as the market doesn't absolutely just come out from under them. We're either going to need the market to come out from under them or a dividend announcement from GME. A substantial dividend from GME, whether it's cash or crypto, I think can really stick it to them. I'd be interested to see what they do, and I've been hoping for 8 months now that they announce something, and then they don't, and then they don't, and then they don't. So, come on, GME, give us a dividend, man. Oh, Rebello, Houston, I heard all NFT are available for download at the NFT Bay. They're being sold for crypto and don't run on blockchain. Well, most of when you buy an NFT, right, you are basically buying the web address to the picture you're buying. You don't get like a fancy encrypted thing. It's being stored on a website somewhere because your wallet can't actually store the image, and so you get an internet address, a website that connects to it. And that's it. It's just a JPEG on a website somewhere, and you bought the location. And so anyone else can click on it and right click and whatever. The whole ape army thing, it's all money laundering and pump and dumps and scams, and more power to those guys for making a bunch of money off a bunch of really stupid pictures because they're one of a kind or whatever. But in the end, no one gives a shit. They're Beanie Babies. Where NFTs are going to come in handy is in practical applications with everyday use, and not some sort of glorified ego boost for a weird nerd who has a picture of a monkey smoking a cigarette. That's just, it's more power to them if that's what they like to look at. I just don't give a shit. And most people don't. It's an entire economy built on the greater fool fallacy. Like, you spent $1 million on your picture of a monkey. That monkey only has value if somebody else dumber comes along and wants to pay you even more for it. And they exploit this greater fool theory by trading the monkeys back and forth between their own accounts. So this guy has his monkey over here, and he's got an account with ETH over here, so he'll buy his own monkey from himself for $5 million, and then he'll buy it from himself again for $6 million, and then he'll put it for auction and sell it for $1 million. And so he not only laundered like $10 million in the process, $11 million in the process, but then he made $1 million off of it, all for minting a $30 picture of a monkey. It's to me it's blatant money laundering and grifting system. Apparently the guy. So part of the thing about NFTs was the artist would get money out of this stuff. Every time it sells, the artist gets like 1.5% or 2.5% of the sales price in perpetuity. And then they discovered that the artist who designed all the monkey NFTs for the Bored Ape Yacht Club or whatever it is has never seen a dime. That those guys hired him, he designed everything, and then they never paid him money. So the entire purpose of that whole the artist will get cash out of this isn't holding up. So who knows if that stuff will even be around or anyone will care or talk about it other than in the past tense in a few years. We're coming up on basically a year of NFTs being like, whoa, NFTs are happening. And I think they're discovering that only a few people actually care. 97% of all transactions are from the same 100 people with regards to NFTs. So it's a small group that's just passing this stuff around. And then articles came. Someone sent me an article the other day that the Treasury is investigating NFTs as money laundering operations, as far as art is concerned. So, yeah. Okay. All right. There we go. Apparently my brother's in the chat today, and he wanted me to remind you that he's my brother. Yes, Gardner Way is my brother. It's so weird. I said in a stream 8 months ago, I was like, well, yeah, my brother Gardner works at Metamaterial, and that's how I know people there, and no one cared. And then all of a sudden this week, people were like, Gardner Wade is Houston Wade's brother? Oh my gosh. Yeah. Also, BlackRock just bought 9 million shares of Metamaterial, so there's some news for you. It's all right. And is this him messaging me again? All right. There was yeah, there you go. Yeah, so there you have it. So 9 million shares of Metamaterial just got bought by BlackRock. That's interesting. I'm sure they're going to lend them all out because that's what they do. But it's bullish, in my opinion. You can buy 9 million shares for, what, $14 million right now? That's a pretty good deal. Yeah. Okay, how far behind in the chat am I? I'm only 40 minutes behind. Dang. Whew. Let's try to get through there. Okay. Kelly Reed, top of the afternoon, evening Houston. I was wondering if you could shed some light on how our fiat currency isn't backed by anything. Do you think we're heading towards a digital currency? Well, fiat currency is backed by things. It's backed by a $780 billion a year military. That's what backs the U.S. currency. We make sure it is the global currency because we can blow up anybody who doesn't want to be the global currency. I don't think Russia or China have any appetite to actually be the global currency. They're happy to use euros and dollars because the Chinese yuan is attached to the U.S. dollar in value. It's artificially has an artificial price attached to it. Oil, metals, those things get traded in U.S. dollars most of the time, although China and Russia just struck a natural pipeline oil deal with each other, and they're going to be doing the trading in euros, I think, to be like kind of like, screw you, America. But they want a hard currency. That's what they want. Let's see here. What else? But overall, a currency's value, fiat currency's value is like Tinkerbell. You got to like clap and believe, and it will come to life. The minute people stop believing, or the system's too flooded with the currency and there's too much of it, too much buying going on, then the value of it psychologically drops. And that's what happens with, that's what happens with that. So, yeah, if the United States, if we have out of control inflation and the value of our currency drops significantly, that's when you see like the price of oil go up because it's traded in dollars. So if oil's trading for $100 a barrel, then the value of the US dollar is theoretically less. But right now, everyone else's currency is also inflating. So, our on par value with the Swiss franc, with the British pound, with the euro, it's all still fairly straight parity. So I think everyone else, because they've had to make all these monetary decisions during COVID, everyone else is experiencing inflation too, combined with supply chain problems and supply and demand issues, and that's causing prices to on everything to go up, which makes the value of currencies to drop. But are we moving towards a digital currency? Probably someday. I think that there would be a large problem for the rest of the world if the U.S. moved to digital currency and foregoed cash, because there's something like 60% of all the cash in existence is outside of the United States, and like 90% of all cash is in $100 bills. So you never see 90% of all the cash on Earth because it's in $100 bills in bank vaults all over the world. And a huge, gigantic portion of that cash overseas is likely counterfeit. So they'll counterfeit bills, spread them around overseas, and then get themselves bank accounts with that money, and then they can do international trade that way with that hard currency. So if we move to a digital currency, I'm not sure what would happen to that cash trade that sustains a whole bunch of economies and rich criminals around the world. I'd be really curious to see. Like, our economy may depend upon that cash being overseas as well, because it allows them to buy stuff from us. And if we close off the access to that cash by making a digital currency, then we might not have as many exports as we want. I'd be very curious to see how that work out. If there's somebody in economics who's done scenarios like that, and you guys can point me to, I'd love to read it. Yeah. Okay. Wildcat Strike, isn't the spreading ridge negated by the Marianas Trench? Must be misinformed. Marianas Trench is a subduction zone area. Go back to Google Earth. So, the Marianas Trench. Okay. Marianas Trench is this big bad boy here. So Northern Mariana Islands, Guam, we're looking thousands and thousands and thousands of feet deep. So what we have here is this is, I can't remember the name of this oceanic plate here. It's this oceanic plate here that's meeting with the giant Pacific plate, and the Pacific plate is actually diving underneath this littler plate here as the spreading ridge that comes. We got a spreading ridge here. We got a spreading ridge that comes down this way. That's splitting these two oceanic plates apart. and pushing everything in this part of the Pacific further west. And so we've got these two heavy, dense oceanic plates colliding, one slapping under Asia, where Japan and Kamchatka Peninsula form, and then one under the Marianas Islands and Guam, which makes an island arc volcanic range here as a result, as the Pacific plate dives underneath, making this very deep trench that I think goes down like 30,000 feet at its deepest. 27, 26, 24. So yeah, there's tens of thousands of feet. Somewhere in here is the deepest part. It's very, very deep trench. 26,000, 25,000, 28, 29. Yeah, it's about 30,000 feet deep is the deepest part of this trench where these two plates are combining. Back to Big Houston. And Grandpa Barney's in the chat. Hey, Grandpa. Dumb question. If the float has been bought, who knows how many times over on AMC, how can BlackRock buy 40 million more shares? They're at 8.5% of the float. Makes no sense to this dumb lineman brain fog. Because somebody generated 40 million more shares. They just went, blink, 40 million shares in existence. There you go. And they sold them to BlackRock. That's how they bought it. Because I haven't sold it. You haven't sold it. None of the people in this chat have sold it. None of the folks in this play have sold 40 million shares because the market maker went 40 million shares into existence. BlackRock may have even formed 40 million of their own shares and then bought them from themselves at that point. I don't know. So, yeah, it's not possible to buy 40 million legit shares from actual holders. You buy it because they're naked counterfeits that have been generated by everybody. Hey, buddy. Down the floor there. Yeah, little nose. Look at that little nose. Look at that little nose right there. Okay. PG, great shirt. It is a good shirt, isn't it? Just a bunch of people punch each other in the face. Comic book style. Okay. Luke Alexander Houston, what's your opinion on the better play for a bigger payout? Buying more MMTLP and getting a nice dividend, or buying more metamaterials, potentially getting more because of the squeeze? I mean, that's a good question. Man, how would you phrase that? So if you get MMTLP, that's what becomes Oilco, and that's what becomes the cash dividend if and when they sell the oil land. So that's just cash right off the bat. And I did like quick back of the napkin math last show, and it showed like, $20 per share. So if you're buying a $1.30 and you get $20 out of it, that's a pretty darn way to go. Now, if you're buying metamaterials, it's slightly more expensive at $1.60, $1.70, whatever it's trading at right now. And that cash dividend forces a squeeze because a lot of folks who shorted that stock are not going to be able to come up with that much cash. $20 billion in cash, they don't have that. So they're going to get their shares recalled by the folks who lent them, by the brokers who had to make those synthetics when there were failure to delivers. And that's going to force buying of metamaterial. Now, metamaterial is going to get a giant cash infusion because Oilco is a wholly owned subsidiary of metamaterial because they own most of the shares. So they're going to get, billions of dollars in cash infusions. So they're going to have a lot to play with. And then, so now you're going to be short on a company that's sitting on billions of dollars, that's got upwards growth potential, and has been shorted like crazy, and you have to buy back a whole bunch of those shares. So I wouldn't doubt seeing metamaterial, go up 70, 80x on that as a result. So there could be, instantaneous cash from MMTLP, potential cash from a squeeze. You probably get more from metamaterial stock, but you'll get guaranteed cash from the MMTLP when, that becomes a special dividend again. So you know, one way or the other, I guess. Okay. Man, lots of people talk about J. Powell selling stocks. How come I didn't see that news at all? Ugh. I spent all day just reading. I guess I was reading the wrong thing. Oh, goodness. Get out my eyeball hair. I have to read up on J. Powell. Maybe I'll yell at him more on the next show. Meow meow. What's the point of an ER date if you can just buy the dividend share? Well, that's because the dividend shares weren't supposed to be sold ever. It appears that Knight and Citadel basically created a market, possibly illegally, so that those stocks could be traded. And they were never supposed to be traded in the first place. So it should have been everybody who had the stock as of June 30th or whatever last year. Those are the ones who should still have the stock today. But they created a market illegally because that stock wasn't supposed to trade, and then all of a sudden it started trading. Everyone got sort of strong-armed into doing that. And I wouldn't doubt if there's investigations and lawsuits that get involved with that. So, yeah. You weren't supposed to be able to buy the dividend share. You're supposed to be stuck with it, like a glue trap stuck to you that eventually turns into cash. Okay. Greg L. On a better non-political note, I made a lot of money on Shiba last couple of days. Good for you. I did not. I sold my Shiba and I bought a helicopter tour. And then I bought into a bunch of other shit coins that were going places and then didn't. How much garbage is my Saitama? Yeah, I'm still just completely underwater on Saitama coin. Oh well. Someday. I was up like 4x on it, thinking, oh yeah, tomorrow's gonna be the day, and then and now I'm down like 80%. Cool. Chad Clifford, Houston was wondering if you remain bullish on COS and the MOAS. Remember you saying it could soar to big numbers in the squeeze. Do you still feel the same way? Not financial advice. Yeah. COS is a really tiny float. It's a float of only like 2 million or so. It's been getting hammered down as of late. They got, let's see, it was up like 127 January last year. And then June it shot up to 44. And in October, it shot up to like 23 or 24 on the news of them winning a lawsuit against Apple for wireless headphones. And then it's been getting hammered down ever since. Now it's like $9 or something. So, yeah. There's still squeeze potential because, I mean, there's only 2 million shares in existence, and I bet you people own way more than 2 million shares. So that's why it's still a squeeze potential. The company itself is a meh company owned by the children who inherited the company from, the elder leader, Mr. Koss himself, I guess. And they don't really care. They don't seem to care at all. They're like, I'm going to go to Eyes Wide Shut parties and live the life of a scion. And I don't really think they care about the company. It's sort of just like running itself right now. And that's why costs, you see the headphones at Ross or Marshalls or TJ Maxx and Target and like lower end places because they just don't care anymore. They just have some Chinese factory stamp their name on some generic thing and ship it. And that's what they do. So there you go. Euphoria Morning, Houston, happy birthday. How invested are you in crypto? I firmly believe we are undergoing a paradigm shift in finance. Exciting. Cheers. I am basically invested in shitcoins. I just bought a whole bunch of them, and I'm waiting for them to explode here and there. Shiba did it. Saitama did it for a little bit. My other plays, I don't remember the names of half of them that I got. Haven't done squat. But I think the hedge funds, they pump these shit coins and then they dump them to generate cash. And so they've done it with CXC coin. They did it with Shiba. They did it with... those are weird. I don't know the names of half these coins that they've done it with. So I'm just playing a long play, hoping that one of the ones I have will go stupid high, and my 20 billion coins of something that was worth nothing will be worth a fraction of a penny, and I'll sell for a lot of money. That's my goal. But I think the biggest problem with crypto right now is that so much of crypto is scams. It is. It's people playing scams on each other a whole bunch, and that seems to be what a lot of folks are making money off of. Now, I do the comparison with stocks. So you buy crypto, right? It's supposed to be a currency, but you can't use it to buy anything except for pay for crimes or launder money. That's what it's used for mostly. And then the third thing that adds value is speculation. Now, people say crypto is going to replace fiat, but the problem is that everyone ties the value of crypto to fiat. So you say, oh, Bitcoin's worth $43,000. That's because the thing that's actually worth money is the $43,000. Crypto is being compared to it all times. So you can't say it's going to replace fiat when its sales and value is based entirely upon fiat. Now, there may be some cryptos that are rare and others that are not so rare. Bitcoin is fairly rare. Shiba Inu is not. There's a quadrillion Shiba Inu that were created. And I think they burned a whole bunch of them, and they've got 100 billion left or whatever. But you look at a stock, right? You have a stock like GameStop. There's 73 million GameStop shares out there. There's way more people invested in GameStop than there is in Bitcoin. And yet GameStop isn't worth $60,000 a share. And when you buy GameStop, you are buying real property. GameStop owns real estate. They own logistics systems. They own brands. They sell products. You can get dividends from it. There's something more tangible in that than there is in Bitcoin, where if you buy Bitcoin, hey, you got a Bitcoin. Congratulations. Cool. If you forget your password, your Bitcoin's gone. That's it. Done. If you forget your password in Fidelity, you call up the Fidelity tech guy. He helps you get you log back in again. There's no tech guy for your Bitcoin wallet. You accidentally lock your hard drive. It gets scrambled, whatever. You can't find your passphrases. It is gone forever. And you just made coins more rare overall for everybody else. You've all heard that story about that guy who's been searching through a garbage dump for 2 years because he lost like $1 billion in Bitcoin. Then there's the dude that has hundreds of millions of dollars on some hard drive that's password protected, and he's got like 2 tries left before the hard drive locks forever. Cryptocurrencies are weird. They're in a weird place. They are in this weird infancy stage where a lot of scams are being made, a lot of crimes are being committed, a lot of speculation is happening, and then the hedge funds are heavily invested in that stuff. And they just pump it and dump it at will because they've got a bunch of cash at play, and they can do a $10 million play in a day and make or break a single coin in that play. It's a very weird realm. It's unregulated, so anything goes. It's the Wild West, man. It's the Wild West. I'm sure lots of aspects of blockchain and crypto and NFT technology will make its way into mainstream uses, such as blockchaining the entire NASDAQ and New York Stock Exchange, so that naked short selling can't happen anymore. That'd be fantastic. But coins themselves, I play with it because it's speculative, but I'm not counting on it being the future necessarily. Meow meow. I think Kathy Wood is right about Planter. The PE ratio is meh, but year over year profits are great. She might be right about Planter. I don't like Planter because I don't like Peter Thiel. I think he's a straight up like Nazi. I think he's a Bond villain, 100%. Awful, evil, terrible human being. So I don't play with Plantier. But they are basically making like a Bond villain weapons AI company that absolutely terrifies me, and I don't like it. I don't think he's a good person. I don't think technology Plantier is using is going to be used for good. I think it's going to be used for evil, and so I don't mess with them. Peter Thiel is a bad man, and I don't like him. Peter Thiel, I don't like you. You're a bad person. But you have a lot of power and a lot of money, and you will use it however you see fit, and I don't think you're going to use it for good. Truth Seeker, Houston, your opinion on why still after a year we've yet to have a short hedge fund defector. Give us some insight inside. Even anonymously, disclosure agreement or not, very suspect. I've seen a few things pop up about like people who worked at Citadel. You'll read stuff on like hiring websites. You'll see reviews that were like, yeah, don't work for these guys, and let me do this, and this. And I think that's kind of a way that they're getting around that. We've seen a few folks who used to run hedge funds come out in the news. But my guess is that most of the folks who could be a hedge fund detector and spill their beans on Reddit are actually going to the SEC and getting whistleblower status, which may preclude their ability to go on Reddit and spill the beans. Because if you spill the beans to SEC, they do an investigation and find them, you get a pile of cash. And so, there might be a $5 million incentive not to tell Reddit, but to tell the SEC instead. That'd be my guess. Okay. Ass says hello. Hello, Ass. Okay. Euphoria Morning, Houston, get your rock on. Listen to my band on YouTube. Type in Mojave All-Stars River Down. Would appreciate your feedback. Welcome to Play Live. Cheers, dude. Mojave. Sorry, I'm right down. Mojave. All-Stars River Down. Now, if I like it, I'll play it live Euphoria Morning. There you go. I'll give it a listen. Oh, you dang super jet. Always moving. Gosh dang it. Where'd the... Sorry, my chat reset again. And I was just... Did I manage to... Mariana's Trench question. J Powell. Blah, blah, blah. People talking about the truckers. Where's Euphoria Morning? Paradigm shift. Oh, Gamma Guy, what's my favorite historical event? I think the weirdest historical event, I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's one that has the least amount of explanation for it ever, is the dancing plague. So during sort of the Baroque period, this plague spread throughout much of the world, and people just started dancing. And they're like, even not even music, they're just dancing and dancing. They dance themselves to death, just boogieing down, having a great time, and they just like died of exhaustion, starvation, dehydration, and they just died. Like thousands of people across Western Europe, especially, died, and they don't know if it was mass psychosis, they don't know if it was a virus, they don't know what it was, but there's plenty of historical record of the dancing disease, and it spread from like town to town. People just started boogieing, and they boogied themselves to death. It's the weirdest thing, and there's no explanation for it, and I'm totally wondering why. Grandpa Barney, I can't use swear words on this. BS. I'm sorry, Grandpa. You should be able to use. I use swear words, but they won't let you. That's a downright shame. Okay. Talking about earthquakes. I'm still so far behind. I'm still 40 minutes behind in the chat. Okay, there's Lake Ozarks. Accused adrenaline. Pelosi has made generational wealth in the market and is still unwilling to let it go. Just shows you the power trip these elites are on. Yeah. I mean, it seems that there's a very clear divide, regardless of party. Those who will use their information that they get as members of Congress to do insider trades and make a fortune, and those who think it's wrong and want to make it illegal. Now, the problem is that the ruling party is currently run by somebody who's made hundreds of millions of dollars off of insider trading. And, the woman's 800 years old. She should just, I don't know, I'm of the mind that if you made your $10 million, you can be rich for the rest of your life, make more money than you could ever spend, travel the world, see things, do cool things, take care of your family forever, and you just don't need more than that. And if you have more than that, cool, maybe you can use that to help more people. But when you have $100 million, you have $1 billion, and you just want more, there's something fundamentally wrong with your psyche at that point. I mean, cool, having $1 billion and being a billionaire is great. Going to Monaco and racing around your Ferraris and then playing the craps table and hanging out with supermodels, cool. You can do that with $1 billion. You can also do that with $10 million. So, I don't know. I think a lot of people are just secretly Bond villains at heart, and that's what they want to be. They watch a Bond movie, they're like, yes, I'm going to pet the cat. They're going to pet the cat, and they're going to think of ways to take over the world. And I don't know. Maybe it's their way of seeing a giant puzzle or something. All right. Pam's in the house. Hello, Pam. Okay. Pam, yes, it was the real me you've been DMing. It is true. Okay. And I am a bit behind in the chat. I'm trying to catch up here. I'm scrolling. Trying to get to some fresh new questions here. Problem is when I do get behind the chat is that then it becomes this whole stretch of stuff that I answered previously that I've got to skip past. And that's what happens with being a slow Houston on a slow news day. Truth Seeker, he says, yeah, it's going to burn until the fuel's gone. They can't reach under the roof structure. It's why they use excavators. Very common. Yeah, they're stuck. They got to destroy the building in order to stop the fire, which, everything's going to get destroyed anyway. And all the water that's been sprayed on it has destroyed all those paper documents. There's nothing to save. It's ruined. Whatever's already there is ruined. Okay. Ape Fapper Pro, Houston, how do you feel about HME running after hours with Wall Street Journal article, but hasn't with the IMX looping news? I didn't realize it was running after hours. I did not realize. Let me see here. Do you want to HME? Nope, not popping up for me. I was in OTC stock. I got to search something else. I'll have to read about that post show and then get back to you on that one. Jeremy Blanken. So one thing I feel like people haven't asked much with AMC is why AMC? Why not every other theater chain, Cinemark, etc., who's trading above AMC now, IMAX, etc.? Yeah, I mean, I don't know what if those theater chains are also shorted as much as I'm sure they were especially when COVID hit. Why wouldn't they short pretty much any theater chain? Because people just can't go to theaters. Yeah, AMC is the largest theater chain in the nation, so maybe that's why people focused on it. But I mean, people did some math, realized it was significantly short, and decided to jump on board. Peter Bartow, a lot of YouTubers giving $1,000 price target during squeeze. Your thought? 1,000 is when the squeeze will start to begin. $1,000 is where margin calls will start to happen, and folks won't be able to come up with the liquidity to combat those margin calls. That's a starting place. That is, it will go so much higher than $1,000. $1,000 is nothing, especially for GameStop. It will go much, much higher. Folks talking about how they want to hold forever. Vimy385, they only have to say they can locate a share to short, so computer shares are shortable. That might be true. Yeah, that might be true. Oh, somebody brought up a question last night I didn't have an answer to, and I was curious if anybody had an answer. But they said if everybody put like a huge limit sell order on their stocks, $100,000, $1 million, whatever their brokerage will allow them to do, is that it ties those stocks up and makes them unloanable. Sort of like putting a bunch of things in the basket on Amazon.com, but not hitting buy yet. It ties up the inventory. It happens with if you're trading crypto on crypto.com or Coinbase or whatever. If you put a limit order in, you can't do anything else with that with that stuff till limit orders fulfilled or canceled. So it can't those stocks may not be allowed to be lent out. I'm curious about that. If anyone has a better answer, I didn't have an answer for the person who asked the question, but I thought it's a pretty good train of thought that it would act sort of like a DRS, but make it impossible to be identified as a lendable share. Yeah, so my brain's been trying to roll over, and I don't know enough about the rules of when you tie something up with a limit order. But that was a good question. If anybody knows, let me know. Fred Houston, a while back you stated that if short hedge funds can make it past January, they have some kind of magical powers. What do you suppose those magical powers are? Well, a lot of those hedge funds obtain market maker status over the last couple of years, so they can generate naked shorts, which means they aren't responsible for FTDs at that point. Superpowers include debt and equity swaps and variance swaps. And that seems with the proposed new rules that superpower may end. Reporting is voluntary, so that's another superpower. And they can pump and dump lots of different valuable securities to generate cash, and they can manipulate the market that way. What happened last week with the tech stocks was blatant market manipulation and very illegal. If anybody at the SEC looks into that, they're going to find all sorts of legal actions happening with those stocks. They drove the price down on purpose because they had bought a bunch of puts for cheap. They made a fortune off those puts, used that cash to then buy calls, and then jacked the price right back up again and made the same fortune again a second time around. And that is manipulation. That is straight up manipulation. There was a coordinated effort by multiple hedge funds, which is illegal. And I think if anybody has the balls to look into that, they're going to find all sorts of laws broken. The problem is that if they finally break those laws and they made $1 billion or more off of those plays, they'll get fined like $1 million. Oh no, bad me, I won't do it again. I only made $999 million off of that instead of $1 billion. So there you go. Peter Bartow, Lou says it's going to be a managed event and it'll be capped at $1,000 during a squeeze. No, I don't think so. I think $1,000 is where the squeeze begins. I don't think it can be capped at $1,000. I think it starts at $1,000. You do $1,000 on GameStop, you are looking at a $70 billion company, right? Am I doing math right on that one? Yeah, $70 billion company. And that results in $1 trillion in outstanding liability. More? $10 trillion in outstanding liability on just GameStop from all the naked shares that are out there. That's what's going to cause margin calls. They got the government tries to manage this at $1,000 a share. They're losing international investors forever. Those folks are never coming back. Hi, buddy. How are you? You having a good day? Yeah. Or just want to stare at me? Is that what you want to do? That's okay. You can stare at me all day long. I appreciate it. Your muzzle is so white. For such a young dog, you have such an old lady muzzle. Yes, prematurely gray. Okay. Oh, got a couple super chats here. Iggy Limon. How do I vet people for a nonprofit? I'm worried I'll hire someone like that embezzling nun in LA. She took $800,000 to pay her gambling debts. Ooh. Yeah. I mean, you may have to go by word of mouth and what other people say of them. Don't necessarily just trust, like, calling their references and be like, hey, is this a trustworthy person? Because who knows, you might be calling their best friend or something, or their partner in crime. Criminal background checks, looking up their online history, I guess. I don't know. You may go with gut feeling, but then again, there's some crazy psychopaths out there that can make you believe whatever you want them to believe, and they'll make you do all sorts of stuff. Life's a gamble, man, and sometimes you gamble on a nun and lose. Grandpa Barney, what a medium safe price for GME to start my step ups? Depending on how big you want the ladder to be, so kind of my ladder strategy, you can start anywhere. I mean, if you start $1,000, by your 7th trade you're at 10,000. By your 14th trade you're at 100,000. If you are at 21st trade, you are at 1,000,000, right? So depending on how many shares you have, you can start your step ups wherever you want. I'm just choosing to do 100,000 because I don't have that many shares, and that's how I'm going to roll from there. But exponential growth gets carried away in a hurry. I've talked a few examples of exponential growth out there, but the best way to picture it is, if you have a pond, you have a big pond, it's hundreds of acres in size, and there's one lily pad, and the next day there's 2, and the day after that there's 4, and every single day the number of lily pads double in that pond, right? Until the pond is entirely full of lily pads. Let's say it takes 100 days to fill the pond with lily pads. How much of the pond was full of lily pads on day 99? Half. Then boom, the rest of it filled up. So exponential growth is incredibly fast. And so you can start your step ups. If you have a bunch of shares, if you got 1,000 shares, whatever, you can start your step ups at a much lower price. I don't have the 1,000 shares. I didn't get in early enough to do that. So my idea of ladder sales is going to start later on, afterwards. Say my name. Say it. Okay, Michelle. Is 100,000 still your number? That sounds like an impossible number, but man, that would be great. If it hit 20K, I'd be amazed. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm thinking. When this runs, is going to run really, really hard. If Bitcoin can peak out at $67,000 a coin and serve no actual purpose, then why can't GameStop go past that? What is keeping GameStop from being worth $100,000? The fact that people can funge it. That's it. They can create fake GameStop shares and sell them and keep the price artificially low. The minute they can't do that anymore, the minute they face liquidation and they lose that power to generate fake shares, then there's no more suppression on the price, and the price becomes all buy pressure. Just buy pressure, buy pressure, buy pressure. And it's going to rocket, man. It's going to rocket really, really hard. Boats and Hose 2022. Are you related to Mr. Hands in Enumclaw, Washington? I don't know who Mr. Hands in Washington is, but cheers to Mr. Hands. No, I'm not related to him. I don't think I'm related to anybody with the name Hands. Dawn, title of Jesus' memoir. Let's see how far behind in the chat I am, part 1. 40 minutes. Not bad. I am 46 minutes behind. So, there you go. No, sorry, 36 minutes behind. Oh, sorry, did math wrong. That's not so bad. All right. Robin Hood asks, hey man, who will win the Olympics? My guess is the best athlete. That's who's going to win. I've read somebody said these Olympics look like the athletes at the Olympics look like somebody who agreed to a dinner party a month ago and are regretting every minute of it. Like, oh. My friends I was staying with in Switzerland, they had spent a New Zealand winter a few years ago down in New Zealand, and their roommate is in the half pipe competition now for snowboarding for Team New Zealand, and 2 other people they went skiing with all the time are representing New Zealand Olympics. That was pretty cool. I don't know any Olympians this time around. No, one. Katie Ulander, duh. She's in her probably last year's skeleton racer. How I forget Katie. She's her 5th Olympics. Hope she gets a medal this time because skeleton is really gnarly. She got cheated out of a medal by the Russians in 2014. She got 4th place, and the lady who got 3rd place, got the bronze, ended up testing positive at another event later, but they never took her bronze away from her, which is a real bummer. Katie's a rad lady. And her dad was a member of the Big Red Machine, the Reds. How awesome is that? And just when you meet a freak athlete, like I could throw a knuckleball. I was never a freak athlete. When you meet somebody who is an absolute just like freak of nature, it is phenomenal. And Katie is one of those. Like, she's an Olympic caliber weightlifter, a cyclist. She's an amazing surfer and snowboarder, and then she does the Olympics in skeleton. And skeleton is the most terrifying, probably most dangerous sport beyond, I don't know, jumping out of planes or something. You're going 80 miles an hour past giant metal poles on a big luge head first, and if you hit something, that's it, you're dead. There's no more. It's pretty friggin' terrifying. So I am impressed by skeleton racers. There's a reason why it was illegal for like 80 years in the Olympics, and they finally were like, all right, fine, we'll let it in. Let some people die first. Yeah. Robin Hood, do you think there is life in huge water pockets underneath the crust of the Earth? Possibly. I mean, they found microbes in those deep mines in like South Africa that are 13,000 feet down, and some of that water is 50 million years old. They found microbes in it that are, of things that appear to be living off of the heat of the Earth at that point. So yeah. Lebeau Luke. Charlie's Vid said that reverse repo are used by banks as a backdoor to move liquidity from U.S. to emerging bond markets. Doesn't make sense for me. Your thoughts on that? I watched that video. I have no idea what he's talking about. I watched it twice. I was trying to see how he's explaining it. He just kind of waves his hand around 3 lines, and then I have no idea. Reverse repo is used in a lot of weird ways. So the repo and reverse repo market, it just happens to be which way the assets are being collateralized. And hedge funds, let's say they need to make some quick cash. They'll enter the repo market. They'll take their bonds, which are the good collateralization, and they will say, hey, bank, will you take my bonds as collateral, and you give me cash for a quick 1-month play, and I will pay you back, and you take my bonds. I'll take my bonds back. Bank says, sure, whatever. There's a repo market. And so the hedge fund will give the bank their bonds. They'll get a bunch of cash, do their play. But when they do their books, they'll list their bonds as an asset and then say they sold their bonds for that cash. And they'll totally fudge the books, and it should be totally illegal. They're doing things like that with it. And, sometimes they may just never pay back the bank, and now the bank's stuck with all these bonds. and lost out on this cash, and then the books are just messed up all along the way. There's some really shady stuff that happens with repo and reverse repo, but I don't know how they're using it for the bond market, unless people are giving them Brazilian or Chinese bonds and these collateralizations. Generally, they want U.S. Treasury bonds, or at least U.S. municipal bonds, because those are AA or higher rated. But I wouldn't doubt if they sneak in other stuff. And they may be leaving the banks holding the bag on some of these things. Meow meow. Escobar cocaine hippos are probably going to get whacked. Colombia isn't happy with them anymore. Bummer, man. Bummer for those hippos. But, they aren't native to South America, so they're going to have to get whacked eventually, I guess. Or they're going to just take over the rivers and lakes and become hippos everywhere. But, those Colombian cocaine hippos, they serve their purpose. They made a rich psychopath happy for a short period of time. Oh, it just sounds like lots of people are doing well with SHIB right now. Good job. Okay. A lot of people are asking my price target for MOAS. Lots of money, man. Ridiculous amount for some people. It's going to be just so friggin' huge. They're going to make so much money, and I hope I'm one of them. Okay, look at some shib. Price target, blah blah blah. Peter Barto, will we have a series of squeezes before the real MOAS? There could be a few of the smaller little satellite plays, like your B-Bigs and stuff, and metamaterial and costs and whatnot, that might trigger ahead of time. I think most of them will be all at once. The reason why I think there might be a few ahead of time is, let's say you've got some smaller hedge funds, they're managing $1 billion in assets or whatever, and they're realizing that they're screwed, that they should have never gotten into GameStop or AMC or one of the other bigger plays, and they have a bunch of liabilities of other ones they did. They're like, oh crap, let's close these liabilities out first, and then we'll deal with the big ones when they come. And so you might see some weird spikes of weird other OTC stocks and whatnot that happen on in the periphery as these smaller hedge funds close those positions in preparation for when the big one actually happens. So that's my idea, that you might see that. But I think for the most part, when the hedge funds face liquidation, everything's exploding that's been shorted on, because they just got to close everything. And so all of them are going to pop, which is what you saw last January as well. Meow meow. When do you think the cocaine hippos would be super skinny, strung out, selling themselves in front of 7-Eleven? Yes. Have you ever seen a hippo skull? It is the most terrifying thing in the entire world. I don't think you want a BJ from one. Let's look at a hippo skull, just so you have an idea of what I'm talking about. They are just... Look at these things. Just look at that. Look at that monster. That is what's underneath that soft looking round hippo head, is this freak of nature. That is a monster. I would not want that thing biting down anywhere near me. Like, that's what a hippo should look like. That should be, nice, round, doughy. But inside that hippo, holy crap. Just a freakazoid. If you come across this skull, you would have no idea it was a round, doughy, fat river dog thing. You'd be like, what dragon did this come from? Is terrifying. Don't mess with hippos. There's a human skull inside a hippo skull. That shows you exactly how much that thing can just ruin your life. Hippos kill more people than crocodiles or alligators combined. They are the most dangerous animal, I think, to humans. I think they kill more humans than any other animal. They look cute, but they will destroy you. Absolutely just ruin your day. You can't tame them. There's people who have gotten them as babies. They've been totally nice to them, and years go by, and they're totally see that person as their daddy or whatever, and then one day they just eat them. And then that's it. So you're never going to successfully have a hippo the same way you can grow a bear from a cub, and it will be a safer bet than trying to grow a hippo from a cub. They are terrifying. Frederick says, Gurk's update, recent speculation. It seems they are washing FTDs with entropy swaps, the smooth version. If they find a counterparty, capped run, and they're hedged. If not, boom. Well, I mean, they're using lots of swaps. Every time they swap an FTD through whatever mechanism that they're doing, it resets the FTD because it assigns a new ownership to it and sets the clock all over again. And the new rules proposed last Friday, by the SEC basically would end that swap practice. So you would not be able to swap failures to delivers. If you made a failure to deliver, you're stuck with it. And so I'm curious to see. They'll probably be trying to do as much as they can until that happens, and then the music's gonna stop. You're gonna be holding a hot potato or whatever, and that's gonna be that. Monkey butt. Do you want? Monkey butt is like down here, being a monkey butt. There you go. Hey, buddy. I'm gonna watch the monkey butt on the floor. Flooring it up. Stephen Alexander, Houston, have you seen any of the interviews with the CEO of Immutable X? They've been pretty interesting. There's one from Superstonk and a couple of others as well. I'll have to check those out. No, I've not seen them. I saw they tweeted the head of blockchain at Microsoft a couple of times this weekend. And yeah, so there you go. I haven't seen an interview specifically. No, I'll have to look those up. Okay. All right. I'm catching up. Only 20 minutes behind now. I'm going to catch up eventually. I'm going to get you guys. Okay. Jeremy Blinken, because if all I have to do is locate a share, the same share can be shorted 100 times. Yep. Exactly. 100 people have all located the same share. They've all shorted 100 times. That's some of those magical powers. All right. Say my name. Say it. Says market makers should have most of their powers banned. Yes. I don't even know why we have market makers. Honestly, I don't see what benefit they actually give to the market. They use most of their power for evil and not for good. So let's get rid of them. I mean, I don't think we really need them in the end. Fionn Murphy, has he addressed Pone calling him out? I mean, she's behind the times. Most people in my chat know about my stalker. That's no mystery. So she doesn't really call me out about anything. My stalker spams anyone who responds to me. Ever. I blocked him on everything, and he responds over and over again. He posts about me hundreds of times a day on Twitter. He makes sub threads about me in Reddit. He's a creepy stalker man. And that's what he does. So there's not much to address there, other than the fact that some folks finding out that I got sued for writing articles that outed a bunch of guys in my community that raped women and children. 2 of those guys went to prison. One of them was a vice president of Disney. Got him sent to prison for raping his granddaughter. And then 2 of the guys were very upset about me writing articles about me, and they sued. Okay, whatever. I don't give a shit. I'm not here to protect men who hurt women and children. And my stalker wants to protect men who hurt women and children. He's good friends with a whole bunch of neo-Nazis who raped a bunch of kids. And that seems to be his MO. And if you read about his history, you will see that he's got arrest records for threatening police. He lost his security clearance when with the Air Force. He's got multiple instances of stalking and restraining orders. He recently framed a man for felony terroristic threat when he took his YouTube videos and re-edited them to make it look like he was threatening the city council of Missoula, Montana. And he sent that video to the police and had him arrested. And the poor guy spent a bunch of time in jail and had to go through trial. And a year and a half later, when the jury found out that the video was completely selectively edited, they acquitted. That's what my stalker does. He's a terrible, terrible monster. And what he's going to do is he's going to try and make me look as bad as possible to other people. Why? Because I banned him from a community Facebook group 5 years ago for stalking and harassing somebody else. So he's turned his attention to me, and he spends 18 hours a day tweeting about me, calling me a brazen liar and whatever else. He's just a piece of crap, and I really wish that COVID would have taken him, but he doesn't have any friends, and no one's willing to get close enough to him to infect him. And so I'm stuck with this asshole stalking me for years now, and it is a pain in the ass and is just a nightmare. And he creates dozens of fake accounts. He pops up here in the chat all the time, and the mods, thank you so much for just deleting his comments when he pops in. No, Rick Reinerson, you're a fucking piece of shit. I hate your guts, and I hope you have a heart attack and die. That's what I hope. You Nazi fuck. Leave me alone, leave everybody else alone, and just live in your van in the woods by yourself, and I don't know, tug on your pud all day. I don't care. Just leave us the fuck alone. Leave us alone. Leave us alone. There. That's all. Let's talk about that. Okay. And I don't really know what Pone's really going on about anyway. She's got her own problems. She's, yeah. All right. Okay. Let's see here. All right. People talking about DRS, blah, blah, blah. Okay. S3, I don't understand GameStop. The company itself has historically been very bad and unpopular with actual gamers. I guess parents blindingly buying kids' games from GME is worth something? I don't know. I never had too terrible experiences with GameStop. It was, before the internet, before you could get game cartridges and stuff more easily off the internet, it was a great place to get classic games. And I don't know, a lot of people spend a lot of time there. I think the fact people had bad experiences the last few years was because there were hedge funds insiders working at the company, just making it as miserable as possible at those companies. So that's kind of what they that's what they're working on there. Okay. Oh, stupid chat reset again. Dang it. All right, there we go. There we are. We aren't too far. I'm catching up. I'm so close. I'm only 15 minutes behind. See you guys. I'm catching up. You guys are tiring out, running out of things to say. Anna Rulnick loves my shirt. Thank you, Anna. This is a good shirt. I like this shirt too. Well, somebody's vacuuming downstairs. Let me shut the door here. What? Stay right there. There we go. Don't need to listen to vacuuming in the background. Even though they're trying to make our house nice and clean, I appreciate it very much. Okay. Wildcat Strike 3, Houston. Because amino acids are found in meteorites, does this lend credibility to the panspermia hypothesis? There's amino acids found. We can see them with our telescopes. We can look into big hydrogen clouds in faraway reaches of our own galaxy, and we can see amino acids. We get the spectral analysis, like boom, there's amino acids in these giant galactic clouds. Oh, get back, monkey back on her. There you go, buddy. All right. We can see the amino acids. Amino acids are something that these hydrocarbon chains will just kind of form naturally. They'll form here on Earth. They'll form in space. Where they came from first, I don't think it really matters. So there is this like basic building block of life that's found through all over the place. The Miller-Urey experiment is basically testing whether organic life can form out of nothing with just these basic building blocks. It's been going on since the 1950s. They took some carbon, some water, some nitrogen, some oxygen, electricity, and some other basic building blocks, and they put it in this hermetically sealed tube, and they just electrocute it. And they're hoping that this represents like lightning strikes in early environments of an early Earth, and eventually single-celled organisms will come out of this goo. They've seen the amino acids in slime starting to form, algae-ish like slime, but it's not algae because doesn't have any DNA and RNA strands to it yet. But it's pretty cool. It's been going on for 70 years or so, right, Monkey? Yeah, 70 years. And hoping someday, the experiment outlived both Miller and Urey, but they're hoping someday there'll be some sort of new life that would form out of that. Might take thousands of years of the experiment continuing to go, but it's very possible. Gamma Guy got his sticker. Fantastic. Glad everybody's starting to get their stickers now. Totally Targus, what are your thoughts on the Winter Olympics right now? Like controversy and China's behavior recently. I think having the Olympics during a pandemic, while inspiring for those athletes to finally get their time, because the Olympics only happen every 4 years, and some of these athletes, they may miss their window if there's an Olympics. It's sad for them. They don't get their peak. They don't get their lifetime earnings that they can get by being stars for this short period of time. I think it's bad that the Olympics don't put more qualifiers on who can host based upon how they treat their people. I think if you're imprisoning millions of your population, and this includes the United States of America, you shouldn't be able to host the Olympics. No one imprisons more people than the United States does. And China is, got millions of Uyghurs in basically prison slave camps. And they're, saber rattling at Taiwan. They're, I'd be happy with other countries hosting. I'm okay with France or Germany or Japan or Australia wants to host. But I think if just because somebody's got billions of dollars they're willing to spend on making fancy venues, that shouldn't necessarily be why you let them host. I don't know. There should be some sort of minimum threshold to get to host the Olympics. But anyway, these Olympics are going to be a giant, colossal failure for everybody involved, and China's going to lose a ton of money, and the athletes are not going to get the recognition they should rightfully deserve, and COVID's going to taint the whole thing, and such is life, man. It's just a big bummer all around, and that's just what you got to deal with in this situation. David Allen Grove, I own over 2,100 shares of AMC at blah, blah, blah. I was wondering how you would go about sell that amount of shares, 100 at a time, 200 at a time. That's all up to you. If your target price is in the thousands of dollars, you're a millionaire. Awesome. You can always still do your one at a time and just keep leaving the whole group as your infinity pool until towards the very end, and then just dump them at whatever high price you want. But yeah, it's 2,100 is more shares than I have, and it's easier for you to sell. Maybe do 10 at a time. Maybe do, I don't know, whatever works for you, I guess. That's my cop out. Okay. All right, now everyone's talking about hippos. Okay, so we're on the hippos question. Are hippos vegetarians? They are until they're pissed off, and then they'll take a chunk out of anybody. There's a hilarious footage I saw of a hippo biting a guy's butt because the guy was teasing the hippo, and the guy ran away, and the hippo just took it, like literally took one of his butt cheeks off his body. And it's like the dude deserved it. I do not blame the hippo for that one at all. Okay. All right. It's 5:50. I'm going to go another 10 minutes here, and then I'm kaput for the day. How old is Monkey Butt? Monkey Butt is 6.5 years old. Or so we think. I got her when she was about 9 or 10 months old in 2016, which put her birthday somewhere around August 2015. Right? That sound right? Yeah, give me the side eye all you want. But yeah, you're about 6.5. She's about 6.5. Okay. Oh, what do you think about Burry selling 94% of his portfolio? Also, thoughts on computer share executive meetings with Ken Griffin ex-executive meetings with Ken Griffin in Finland. I saw that Citadel Air pointed out where he was going. If you are someone like Ken Griffin, you're going to want to have everybody under your thumb. So why wouldn't you want the computer share people under your thumb? That makes sense to me. And Burry, I think, selling 94% of portfolio because he thinks we're at the top right now. Either end of this month, start of next month, they're going to raise interest rates. And when that happens, all the indexes drop. The value of everything drops because liquidity shrinks greatly in the market whenever there's a raise of interest rates. And they're expecting, monthly or quarterly raises for at least the next year. And overall, it's a good thing. We need that to combat inflation. And we need to have the tool of when this collapses, we want to have interest rates we can drop. And if interest rates are too low right now and the economy collapses, we lose that giant tool that allows us to combat recession by lowering interest rates and spurring investment. And so that's it's going to collapse no matter what. We may as well have higher interest rates when it does collapse, that we have that tool available in our war chest, rather than being stuck having to make like negative interest rates or something. Ricardo Cisneros, GameStop should join forces, revamp Toys R Us. Well, Toys R Us is owned by Bain Capital and others, horrible, evil people. And the entire point behind Toys R Us right now, if you listen to the Laser Haas interview, is they rebrand Toys R Us and make a few big stores, and then they over-leverage themselves, take out billions of dollars in loans, give themselves a bunch of bonuses, and then let it bankrupt again. They just do it all over again. Over and over and over. Every 10 years, they do it again. And so I don't think Toys R Us is ever going to be taken seriously as a company until the vulture capitalists no longer have their little dirty fingers in it. And Laser, if you message Laser on Twitter, he'll tell you all about it. Supreme Pig Roach, Houston, is immortality realistic? What could be the downsides? I don't think immortality in our current bodies is realistic. We get injuries and cancers, all the stuff we aren't going to be able to fix. Dangerous rays come from the sun and slice your DNA apart. You eat crappy stuff off Teflon or whatever. So I don't think I think we can extend lives, but I don't think immortality is possible. Perhaps in some sci-fi future, kind of altered carbon, where we have like blanks that we can put our brains into and start over again. That might be a way of achieving some sort of immortality. Downside would be people probably stop having kids, because if you can live to 1,000,000 years old, why would you have a bunch of kids and the whole place just fills up? That's what do they call it? The Adam and Eve fallacy, where if there was no death in Garden of Eden times, then excuse me, people just keep growing and then would just get crushed under the weight of other people. So I don't know. That I don't think it's particularly realistic. There might be someone out there maybe can download your brain into some supercomputer and you can live a digital world after that. I don't know. That might be a way. Hey, look at that. I'm caught up with the chat. Yes. Haha, we did it. Okay. Thoughts on Neom in Saudi Arabia? Neom in Saudi Arabia. Neom? Let's look. See, I don't know, Neom. Neom. Saudi Arabia. Oh, gotta put on the doohickey here. Bing. Neom. Looks like a town. Looks like it's got a big old mosque in the center. I don't know anything about Neom beyond that. This is my first introduction to Neom. So there we are. There's Neom. Al-Fath. Neom. Are we now going to a street called Neom? Or a suburb called Neom? I have no idea. Get me in there. Street view. Street view me. Oh, Google car can't go through here. Bummer, man. Hello. That's all my thoughts about Neom, Saudi Arabia, right there. I know nothing. Oops. Go back. And why are you doing that to me? Come on. Zoom out. Let me. There we go. Now we're out. Okay. Wildcat Strike, thank you for the dancing pear thummy thing. Okay, folks, I made it to the end of the chat. I managed to get here. Fantastic. David Morgan wants me to go on a famous rant. I don't have the time or energy for a famous rant right now. Maybe if someone really pisses me off on Wednesday, I'll give you one hell of a rant on Wednesday. Okay, James Kelly, the question is, when does it collapse? They keep putting on Band-Aids, making it worse for the long term. I think you're absolutely right there, James. That's exactly how I feel, is that the longer they prolong this, the worse it's going to be. And, man. So, I think no one wants it to collapse on their watch, but at this point, I think it's unavoidable. We are in such a bubble right now, and, go try to buy pet food right now. There isn't any. The supply chain is broken down so much that dog and cat food isn't getting to the grocery stores, and just people are running out of dog food. It's really tough at the moment to find food for everything. Times are weird, man. We need to subvert that dominant paradigm right now, and figure out what's going on. Okay. Daniel Berger, what's your profession, Houston? What are your credentials? It seems like you know a lot about a plethora of topics. I have undergraduate degrees in geography, geology, and astrophysics. I've got minors in earth and space science, physics, biology, political science, mathematics. I have master's degrees in astronomy and earth and space science or planetary sciences. And I'm currently, very slowly, doing a master's degree in history. I was supposed to go to Australia and start a PhD in Earth and Space Science there, but then COVID hit, so I'm just doing this master's degree because why not? What else am I going to do? I may go finish my PhD someday somewhere, but that might be a post-MOAS thing, and then, maybe I won't even have to drive to do any more education. Maybe I'll just sit on a beach and throw the stick for the dog or something. Yeah. Okay. But I like to read. I read a lot, and I spend most of my day reading. The rest of my day arguing with people on the internet about what I read. Okay. More immortality questions, hippo questions. Immortality and hippos. Okay. Yeah. JT, where do you see humanity in 2030? You think the WEF will get their way? Well, I don't think the WEF is single-minded. Someone sent me the giant 120-page, very tiny print thing about the Great Reset by the couple of guys from the WEF. I'm still going through it. I haven't quite figured out exactly what they mean by reset in anything. You get to points like, oh, the society reset, and they just describe a bunch of conditions of society, but there's no reset in there whatsoever. So I haven't gotten to any point in that document that really truly explains what they mean by reset, and I don't know yet what they mean. And you read some other things about reset. It means, hey, canceling all debt, starting over, whatever. And other things, reset means killing off all the people, so the rich people get to take over in this dystopian wasteland. I still feel like Great Reset is a very connotative word that means something, or phrase that means something to a lot of different people, and that I can't pinpoint down what any specific person means by it. So, I just can't offer any opinion of what that is. I would love if they would just wipe out debt, start over, whatever. I'm sure it would come with its own problems, but yeah. There you go. All right, we're at 6 o'clock, Monkey. Is it time? Is it time for us to? We have to go have dinner with my mom. Is that it for the day? I think that's it for the day. I don't have anything else. I'm tapped out. A lot of great geology questions today early on. That was fun for me. I like that. I'll catch you folks Wednesday. I think tomorrow I'm going to do a Twitch stream. Do some GeoGuessr tomorrow. And yeah. That sound cool? Sounds cool to me. Monkey, what do you think? That sounds cool to you too. All right, she'll be there. Don't worry. She'll be there. She'll be square. And I'll see you guys, if not tomorrow night on Twitch, I'll see you on Wednesday for our normal stream. Peace.